What is up, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Talking the Rick Show. I am so stoked for today's episode. We have not had a female talent on in forever, so I am super excited for this episode. But before we get started, I want to say I am so thankful for all of you, all of my watchers, subscribers. So thank you all, and I hope you have a happy Thanksgiving tomorrow. But I hope I don't mess up her name, but let's give a warm welcome to Karisma.
Yes, you are on point. Hi.
How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm great. I'm so excited to have you on. I have not had a female talent on in probably forever, so I'm excited.
Aw, thank you so much for having me. When you reached out, I was so excited. I was like, oh my gosh, I was excited to see a female run wrestling podcast and stream. I was like, this is what my why is females in this business and empowering females in this business. So thank you so much.
No, definitely. It's a lot of work, but it's so worth it because there's not a lot of female run podcasts, so it's worth it. It's different, but I like it. So I'm gonna hop right into it with who and what got you into wrestling.
Oh, who and what got me into wrestling? So when people ask me this, I warn that my answer is like the most cliche answer you will hear. And that's my answer is Total Divas. So I just absolutely fell in love with the show Total Divas, and it really caught my interest that it emphasized and it put such a spotlight on how the females in the wrestling business are so, well, at least at the time, better now, much better now, but even still, but at the time, extremely underappreciated, underutilized, and just, women are in there doing the exact same thing in the ring as the men, putting in the same work, maybe more work than some men, and having very, very little to show for it. And so my reason for getting into the wrestling business was just to show girls that we can do exactly what the men can do. We can look good doing it. We can feel powerful doing it. And that this does not have to be a male-dominated sport. We can dominate this sport too.
Exactly. Like if you would have seen, like, let's say maybe 6 to 7 years ago, our female division, even in the indies, wouldn't be like as big as it is now. And like, that's such a good thing.
Yeah. So that's part of what I do also as a person, outside of wrestling. My shoot job is I work in a preschool. And yes, so I work with babies and toddlers, infants and toddlers. And I have just, some of the stuff that I do in wrestling has gotten to carry over into my work here. And just empowering little girls and empowering the next generation of, little athletes, little businesswomen, whatever they decide to be, just empowering them and showing them how powerful and strong that we can be. That's why I got into this.
No, absolutely. And that's kind of crazy because once I finish high school, I'm a senior now. So once I graduate, that's exactly what I'm doing, going into childhood education. So like preschool, kindergarten. So that's kind of crazy.
That's awesome. Oh, how cool. It was not my first career choice, but everything has a reason. And I do. And all the things that I do now are able to tie together. So
no, absolutely. I mean, I think you have like your fair share. You get to deal with cute little people, and then like when they stress you out, you get to hit like big people and be like, okay, I'm tired of the bullshit, and just smack them.
Exactly.
So if people don't know, are you a heel or are you a face? I mean, I already know the answer to this.
Yeah, I am super baby face. I am super, super baby face. I love glitter. I love sparkles. I love pink, purple, rainbow, all the bright colors. I am the ultimate baby face.
No, definitely. I say it all the time. Like whoever comes on, I'm like, yes, you're a face or you're a heel. And I'm like, this lady is like the sweetest person ever. She's such a face. I was like, that's why I was super stoked. I was telling my dad, I was like, oh my God, I'm so excited.
Aw.
And my dad's in the chat hyping you up because that's what he always does.
Hi.
So my next question for you is, what is your favorite thing about wrestling? Other than the little, you know.
Is that you can be whoever you want. There's no coloring inside the lines. There is no, mold. There's no cookie cutter. There's no idea of what you should or have to be, or what you have to do. How you make yourself your own is just completely individual. And that's my favorite thing about wrestling is that you don't have to color inside the lines. You don't have to be what anyone else other than yourself wants to be.
No, definitely, definitely. So do you ever like, because you deal with little kids, do you ever find yourself like sometimes in that moment where you're like, I shouldn't, like, do you know what I mean? Like carrying like something over from wrestling and then into the little kids, be like, oh, I don't know if I should have said or did that. You know what I mean?
Oh, it's hard to get there because the children I'm working with right now are toddlers,
Yeah.
and so they are doing and saying everything that everyone else. Um, so one of the first things that they've picked up from me is a lot of my toddlers now know how to do a forward roll. As I would be on the paddings outside in our yard and just be doing like flips and cartwheels and somersaults, and they would watch and they would be like, more, do it again, and they watch me and then they start trying to do it themselves. Um, so so far we've kept it safe and they're not doing anything too crazy, but I'm sure there will come a day and then I will need to check myself.
No, absolutely. I mean, I'm sure if I was one of your students in that class and like in the future I was like, "Oh my God, my teacher was a wrestler." I'd be so ecstatic about that. I'm sure those little kids too, and when they grow up and they're like, "Oh my God, that was my teacher."
Yeah, their parents get super excited about it too, and I think that's sometimes maybe what I need to watch is parents will ask to see like, oh, what do you do? And I show them a video and the children are watching and it's like, me and another guy or another girl beating each other up.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, this is probably not the greatest thing for them to be seeing, but their parents said it's okay, so I'm gonna go with it.
Yeah, and then they'll just start wrestling moves on like their siblings or each other. Be like, "Hey, their parents consented to it."
Yeah, luckily they're not quite old enough for that yet, but
Thank God.
I
Yeah.
might be I might be setting a precedent.
Absolutely. So, for you personally, what would you say is like the hardest part about wrestling?
Ooh, that's a really good question. Hardest part about wrestling is when you are training, there you're unteaching your body to be safe. Like you're teaching your body how to fall. You're teaching your body how to get hit. You're teaching your mind not to run away at the first sign of danger. And that is a huge challenge and a huge hump, especially when learning new things. When I'm trying a new move for the first time and trying to figure out a new move set, some of the things, like the first time I attempted a moonsault, I was standing on that top turnbuckle with my knees shaking so bad. I scared out of my mind. Um, so fear is definitely like a major mind block that you have to get out of. But the other big challenge is there are some moves that are just not for everybody. And there are some things that you do as a wrestler that you work on in training and that you practice and you try to perfect. And it's just so frustrating because you can't get your body to do it. Your mind may think that you're doing it, and your body's just not doing what your mind thinks you're doing. And so sometimes the mind body disconnect um, is a hard part too. And just, not everyone can do everything. And I have had to learn that that's okay. As much as I hate it, it's okay if I can't do everything. It's okay if I can't do a 450. And okay if I, have the prettiest, that's fine. Um, but yeah, like just having to throw caution to the wind is a big challenge, is probably the hardest part.
No, yeah, I get it. I mean, 6-year-old me was like, oh my God, I'm going to become a wrestler when I'm older. I'm going to take all these bumps. And now, like, because I do the podcast and actually, like, I'm getting, like, closer relationships with some of these wrestlers, they're, like, telling me all about it. I'm like, no, thank you. I'll just stick to, like, interviewing, podcasting, all that fun stuff. You can do it for me. You
Right.
experience it for me.
Live vicariously through you.
Yeah, like, you can just tell me how it feels and how it went, but preferably I'll stick my behind on the other side of the ring.
There you go.
So, do you have, like, a dream venue or, like, a dream place you want to wrestle in? Could be anywhere.
I've already checked one of those off of the list, which I'm just so lucky to have been able to do. I spent 6 weeks earlier this year, almost 2 months, training in Mexico, and just fully indulging in the lucha libre lifestyle. And that was just, there was there's almost been nothing that has felt more amazing than to be able to eat, sleep, breathe 24/7. It's just, to be able to do this as a job and as your lifestyle, it is amazing. um but Mexico is, the birthplace of lucha libre. It's the best place to learn it, and so that was a big bucket list item that I got to check off. And next on the list, I'd have to say I have two places probably on the list. One is in the works, hopefully, for 2024, which is Japan. Um, because my entire, my inspiration for my persona is Sailor Moon. I grew up like the biggest Sailor Moon fan in the world. And so Japan and anime is right up my alley. So Japan is definitely on that list, and that is in the works for 2024. So that's exciting. But also England. England is a bucket list for me. My background, I'm British. My grandparents, or my great grandparents, um, had, were British, Irish, Welsh. So all the British Isles. That's in my blood. So to go to England someday, or Ireland even, goodness, England or Ireland to wrestle would be a dream.
No, that's absolutely amazing. There's another female wrestler, like you and her, like my top two right now, and her name is Cosmic. And she's like exactly like you, except like she's a heel. So you're like the baby face her, and like you're. It's just amazing because like she would say the exact same thing. She's a full Sailor Moon person. Like all her gear was inspired from it. All anime. It's amazing. It's really cool.
That's interesting to go the heel side of it, though.
Yeah. I mean, she's very intense when she's a heel, so that's why I said like you guys are the same, but like you're also the difference because like you're the sweetest person. Obviously, she's my favorite. She's sweet too to me, but like towards everyone else, like she's like, no, don't touch me, don't look at me, don't do nothing. So like that's really cool.
Yeah.
So, have you like obviously you said the lucha you wrestled there or like you had that experience, but is there anywhere else that like you wrestled already and you were like, oh my God, I love this place, I will wrestle here any opportunity I get?
Ooh. So I will be honest, I haven't branched much outside of California yet. Gotten to experience a little bit. I've gotten to Arizona, and I got to work Defy in Washington. Um, so I loved going up and working Defy. The crowd at Defy is just intense, to say the least. Um, but I would say that right now, Seattle and the crowd at Defy was just rock star to work for, and I would do that again in a heartbeat. And I always love going back to Mexico. I've been back now twice um, since the first time I went to train there, and I actually just got back a couple weeks ago from being back there again, and I won my first championship over there.
No,
So
look at
that's
you.
a super special place in my heart. Um, so Mexico is always going to be one of those really special ones.
No, absolutely. And I think like that's like so cool now because like if you would have said like early 2000s, there was never like this much like indie scene. Like maybe there was like a little bit, but like now there's like everywhere. Every state there's a show like every week, and I think that's like the yeah. And like the crowds are always different. So like that's my favorite thing about like traveling all to these like different shows. You're like, well, that crowd was intense and that was like that one's dead. Like they had no reaction. So I think that's
Yeah, that's one of my favorite things too about where I wrestle and train here in the Bay Area at Pro Wrestling Revolution is that we are a lucha libre promotion,
yeah.
and so that's the audience that we pull, and so it's like you get that little taste of the authentic um, Mexico crowd in those shows, and it's amazing. It's invigorating. It's just our shows at Pro Wrestling Revolution are fire. Like our last show at the end of October, we drew 1,200 in a high school gym,
That's
uh, which
great.
is which is unheard of. It's just insane, but it was electric. Like
Yeah.
everybody was hot, everybody was on fire, everybody was excited, everybody was into the show and invested. um, so yeah, there it's definitely true that crowds, are a little bit different everywhere you go, even in the same, area.
Yeah.
I could go wrestle, I could for a wrestling revolution. I was one night and have an electric, just invested crowd. And then I could go to another promotion, you know, 15, 30, 2 hours away and have wrestle in front of, 10 people who could care less about who I am. But
No. Yeah.
it's a little bit different. But, I do this for the people, but I first do it for myself. And so, that's what gets me through working a crowd of 10 or a crowd of 1,200.
No, I absolutely love that. I mean, like I am Pennsylvania based, so like I go to all these shows out here and it's like fun because like out here we have this one called Battlefield and like their crowd is always heated. They're always tense, like from like the Samoan side, he runs it. So obviously like it's always crazy. But now like there's also another company, like it's smaller brand and it's called AXW. Like it's just as good, but the crowd's more just like I'm just here to watch. Meanwhile, I will always be that fan, like losing my voice, screaming. I'm like, go get him. So I really, I think, yeah, I like that because also when I traveled to Rhode Island and Connecticut, their crowd out there was like really intense. Like there was fans throwing tampons at wrestlers. I was like, where I come from, that we don't do that. So I was like, this is different.
Oh, oh man.
It was
I would love
intense.
to hear that story sometime. You and I are going to have to talk
Absolutely.
story. But and yeah, I haven't actually had the opportunity yet to wrestle on the East Coast or the Midwest. So that's something on my bucket list. I have, my whole family's from Ohio. So I would love to wrestle over on that side. I have family in New Hampshire too. So one thing that would be amazing would be Philly. I would love to wrestle in Philly or Boston.
So
Those would be two like major East Coast cities that I would love to hit.
No, definitely. I mean, in Philly, we got the 300 arena, if I can speak English. So that would be a
That would be amazing. One of my closest friends that I train and wrestle with, Viento, he got the opportunity. I want to say it was last year. Yeah, just last year to wrestle there for the Lucha Expo, and he said it was amazing. And so I was like, oh my god, I got to get there too. I'm gonna follow right behind and get
all
there.
right. Be like he's up there. Be like I'm catching up. Don't worry.
Yeah,
I'll be there.
hold on, just wait a minute for me.
Yeah, right. I'll be there in a couple, and I'll be there soon.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely. So, if a younger fan came up to you at the show and was like, "I want to do exactly what you're doing," what would you tell them?
Oh, I would say do it. I would say don't ever lose that. And even if they don't, if in your mindset they don't, like you said, it's like, I'm going to do that, and then now you're like,
Yeah.
that's not for me. Um, whatever the little girls want to do, like whatever they want to be, they should, and they should be able to do that without even thinking twice about it. I would love to see, the girls that I wrestle in front of right now in the Bay Area, you know, training with me, under me, whatever, someday in the future. That would make my heart sing. And what I would tell them is, you're gonna get knocked down 9 times, but you got to get back up 10. And if you want to show the world how strong you can be and how strong females can be, then be that. You have to live it. And it's
Absolutely.
taken me so long to get to this point, to be able to say that and actually mean it. For the first, I've been training for 6.5 years, actually, like actively wrestling for about 3.5 now. And I've always said, I do this for the little girls. Like, I want to inspire the little girls. I want to inspire the next generation of females. And, but I didn't feel, there was almost like a little bit of imposter syndrome. Like, I didn't feel like I was deserving of that because I didn't inspire myself at the
Yeah.
time. And it's and in wrestling, like, there's so much development that happens. You're never the same person when you debut as you are 3 years later, 6 years later, 10 years later. It's, you grow and you develop and you adapt. And one of the things that wrestling has taught me is how to be strong and how to really, live the power that I have. And so, through wrestling, I found friends, I found family, I found fitness, which has just been a lifesaver to me. And that's a big one too. When you invest in your you invest health, and you invest, physical and mental health, and you invest in what inspires you and what drives you, then then there's that fulfillment there. But it took me so long to actually get to that point where I was living that authentically and where I was actually doing that. So now I feel like I can say all these things and mean it, and I'm living it and I'm doing it myself. So that's what I want to do, is I want to show them that, but sooner. I hope that they learn it sooner than I did, because it took me until almost 30 years old to learn that and feel that within myself. And so if I can show someone how to do that way earlier than that, then that will make me super happy.
No, absolutely. I mean, you're so young. You got many, many, many years of wrestling still ahead of you.
That I hope. Thank you for the compliment. I think that I have years left. Um, some days I feel younger than others. That's for sure. And I think that's true for all wrestlers. Some
Yeah.
days you feel like you're 18, and some days you feel like you're almost 80 with the way your body feels.
No.
But yes, I hope I have a long career ahead of me because I feel like I'm just now hitting a stride and I'm just scratching the surface. So I hope that I have a long way to go.
No, absolutely. And I think that's also like a good thing, like with all the little girls looking up to you. Because, like I said, there wasn't ever like this many like female wrestlers, and and it depends really in the like the area. There still might not be that many female wrestlers. Like out in Pennsylvania, we have maybe like 10 tops in the entire Pennsylvania area. So it's like it's not common. So like when those little girls look up to you, it's like, oh my god, that's adorable. And like even if they don't choose wrestling, there's so many things to do in wrestling, whether it's like interviewing, ring announcer, referee. So they have many opportunities.
Yeah. Fun fact: I started out as a ring announcer. Um,
Mm-hmm.
that was my thing until I made my wrestling debut, and that was how I got my face out there, and that was how I started. Um, and it led to, I mean, I've always been training, but um, yeah, like you said, you can start anywhere and you can evolve, or you can, take a completely different path, or you can do something that's not wrestling. Like we need so many more females in other positions, in other career
Yeah.
paths too. Like we need more female physicians. We need more female firefighters. We need more females in these other, quote unquote kind of male dominated jobs. My first was to be a firefighter. It's still my dream. Someday I hope to fulfill that.
Yeah.
Um, and but there's so many things that girls can do that like we have no idea. And that's why I'm here. It's just
No, I definitely love that. I mean, also like in my area, we have like a lot of male like managers, whether it's like outside of wrestling or in wrestling, and like that's something I want to do because they want to sit here and yell at me and tell me what to do. I already have a big mouth, so I'm gonna sit there and yell at you. Like if I could use that in wrestling, absolutely. They'll be like, I know not to mess with her because she's crazy and she's loud. So kind of works.
exactly. And that's just, oh, that's amazing. And we need to raise our voices. We need to be loud. We need to be powerful. We need to, you know, be on top. We need
Absolutely. Yeah.
got to show that we have so much more to offer than people think.
No, definitely. So, if you got the opportunity of AEW and WWE at the exact same time, which one do you think you would pick?
WWE.
Absolutely.
W. I have nothing. I love both, and I love all. I love wrestling, but I I've always had a special place for WWE, and WWE is what kind of was my first love when it came to watching wrestling.
Yeah.
Uh, my my biggest inspiration as a wrestler, I would say I have three major inspirations. The first one and the biggest one would be AJ Lee.
I was gonna say the same exact thing, but go ahead.
She's just, I mean, she was the first one to show me, like, it doesn't matter how tiny you are, you can be tiny but mighty.
Absolutely.
And that just, that caught me right away. Also, just her level of sass and her her mouth is just, no, she has no filter, and I love it. Um, and then when her book came out, when Crazy is My Superpower came out, and I got to hear more of the backstory, not just what you saw on TV,
Yeah.
but she got to, it was made much more inspiring to me. Um, and then my next inspiration would be the Bellas. And that is, I particularly Nikki Bella to me as the powerhouse. Just she's just such an icon of strength in that women's evolution, the women's revolution, that she was just such a staple in that, and was such a powerhouse in that movement that it was inspiring to me. And then, and Brie was an inspiration in a completely different way, where she really showed a totally different side, that you can have a family and you can, settle down and be in love and get married and have children and still live your dream and show your children how you're living your dream. Um, and obviously that's also something that both Brie and Brian have done that together as a couple.
Yeah.
And then my third one I would say is Tegan Knox. And she is just such an inspiration to me because of everything she's been through, the injuries that she's overcame, the mental strength that it takes to come back from an injury is insane. And so watching her do that, not once, but again, right afterwards, was just really inspiring to me. I have had so many injuries. I have had, this is a big list. I have had a separated shoulder. I have had 2 concussions. I have broken my toe. My big toe is the first bone I ever broke is my big toe, and so I'm not proud of that, but but it was wrestling, so I'll be a little bit proud. What else? I have had a neck sprain. I have broken my collarbone or fractured my collarbone, and had surgery on that. I have torn ligaments in my foot. It's just, and I think that's why it's taken me so long to kind of hit a stride in wrestling, is because I have been held back by injuries. But there have been so many examples of comeback stories and that mental toughness in women's wrestling, that I really drew inspiration from that. And I've never wanted to give up. I've never, giving up has never been an option, and quitting has never been an option. And so those three categories, like, I guess I group the Bellas into one, but they both are for separate reasons.
Yeah.
But I would say those women are my inspirations, my examples, my strength, and the foundation why I do this. And they're all women from WWE.
Yeah.
So that's why I would say, finally looping back to your original question, that I would say my foundation and my inspiration has been from WWE. So that would be my.
No, absolutely. And like that's so crazy to me. Like all the females that you mentioned, like my parents can vouch. I love AJ Lee was my first like WWE star. I was all for. I was her for Halloween. I had all the action figures. I had posters. I had everything. My parents were like, "You're gonna meet her one day." I still haven't met her, but it's okay. But as for like all the other ones, I absolutely, they were my top tier. Like the Bella twins, I told my dad, I was like, please give me the action figure, and then I got him, and it's amazing.
Yeah, I had an amazing chance. I was doing a show up in Northern California, and the same weekend that I was up there, on the way back there was like a Comic-Con kind of thing in Sacramento, and the Bellas were there. So on the way back, I made it a point that I was going to stay the night up there, and I was going to go to this Comic-Con and meet the Bellas. And so I told them when I met them, I was like, I'm training to be a wrestler. I just, you two are just such an inspiration to me. And they wrote on the back of a picture, they wrote a note to me, each of them did. And I keep that posted next to my bed. And that is like, anytime I am having a rough time with wrestling, it's just, I can see that before I go to bed and when I wake up in the morning. And it's like, there are women who have been through so much worse than what you have been through. Keep going. Like like I said, giving up is not an option. Quitting is not an option. No matter how many injuries, no matter how many, moves you can or can't do, it's just, they've inspired me, and so that's my goal, is to inspire the next ones.
No, absolutely. I love that. And like that's the cool thing. Like the people that you look up to at like any point in your life, you're always going to look up to them. Even like if you like get out of wrestling, you'll still be like, "Oh, I liked her. I still follow her on like stuff." So it's really cool.
Yeah. Oh my
So
god.
coming from the injuries, what like other than like the picture and the notes from like the Bella twins, what motivated you to be like, I'm going to get better and I'm going to continue to do this? Like in
Um,
moments.
Gosh, I I guess quitting is just not my mentality.
Yeah.
I've just quitting has never been a mentality of mine. Um, but also like wrestling has the I've always since the very beginning of Pro Wrestling Revolution, and the friends that I have made there, the family that I've gained there, is really what keeps me going. And like they are so important in my life, and I would go to battle for any one of them. Some of them have become, extra special friends that I'm just incredibly close with, both, guys and girls. Mostly guys. I will not lie. I pretty much trained with all guys, and I think that's actually another thing that has kept me is times I was the only girl in that class, and so knowing that if I left, it would be all guys. There'd be no girls. And that irks me. That bothers me. um
No, I get it.
yeah, so I think just the foundation that I've had with the family and friendships that I've gained, where I train, um has really been a foundation for me. They've supported me. They've always been, they check on me. They always, a lot. I mean, even some of them showed up to my dad's funeral. Like that's how close some of us are. Um, that we just we're a family, and to think of leaving that family is I can't think about it. It's not going to happen.
No, absolutely. I totally get it. I mean, there's been so many times, like even as like a podcaster, just being like a fan, there's been so many times I'm like, okay, I'm done with this. This is exhausting. This is stressing me out because wrestling's good and all, but there is those times where like the drama and everything, it can just be mentally, yeah, it could be mentally exhausting. But like my real blood family is broken and dysfunctional, but like having wrestling, like it doesn't matter how bad your day is being, if you get to have those people you look up to and you talk to, like you said, they become like your family. So like if I tell them I'm quitting, I'm done, I'm not doing this anymore, they'll be like, nope, I
Yeah.
don't,
Not,
there's no quitting here, like you said. No, I
yeah.
get it.
Wrestling is amazing. I mean, we're all in it because we love it, and that's what draws us to each other, and that's what draws us all, keeps us all together. And it's just an opportunity to connect with people that you would never think to connect with, you know
No, yeah.
outside of the fact that, like, hey, you're a wrestling fan, I'm a wrestling fan, hey, you're a wrestler, I'm a wrestler too. Like that, if there's nothing else that connects you with a person, you have that connection, and sometimes that's enough to link you to someone for life.
Absolutely. And I mean, not everyone now, especially, I don't know about like in your area, but my area now, not everyone, I mean, just in the world in general, not everyone is genuine. So, like, when you meet those people and they like actually care about you, they ask you how you're doing. And like, I have my wrestling aunt and uncle, their name are Sammy, Pandora, and Keikoa. And
Oh,
like, they mean so much to me. And like, if I ever like quit doing anything, they'll be like, girl, you're gonna get back and you're gonna do what you're doing. and they're those people that will be like, they're genuine and they won't like ever hurt me in any way. You know what I mean?
Yeah, genuine. I mean, genuine people in the world are hard to find these
Yeah,
days. Like, so if you can find that anywhere, but especially in wrestling, like that's a gift. Hold on to that tight.
absolutely. So back to you. Obviously, you're an independent woman. You say you don't need nobody needs to tell you otherwise. There's no quitting. So obviously, you do a lot of probably intergender matches, male versus female. How do you like? What's your thoughts on that? Because some people are for it, some people aren't.
I love gender wrestling. Uh, it's an opportunity. You know, it's an opportunity to show your strength, show your power, and show your ability, um, and just prove to anyone that has ever underestimated you that, like, hey, I can hang. Watch me. Um,
Absolutely.
and so I love intergender wrestling. I don't wrestling is wrestling. Like, we females are doing the same workouts as the males. We're doing the same moves as the males. We lift the same weights. We do the same push-ups. We train in the same ring. Like, why should our matches be any different?
No, exactly. And like I love when I have like the male heels on here because they just when I have their comments like, "Oh, you're a girl, you can't do this, you can't do that." I'm like, "I swear I know if I get my practice I need and I step like in that ring with you, your ass is done." Like
Uh-huh.
you don't got to ask me nothing cuz you say all this, but either way, if we train with you, we can equally kick your ass.
Exactly. We're learning all the same things. We have the same foundation.
Exactly.
There's no women's ring and men's ring. We're all in the same ring. So
Exactly.
why should we use different? Why should we have to? Why can't we share the ring in a match?
Exactly. So switching on the other side, I don't think it's for you, but maybe you have a different opinion on it. How do you feel about like hardcore death match,
Ooh,
weapons kind of stuff?
I it's something that's kind of like it's there in the back of my head. Like, it's not something that I would ever be closed off to.
Yeah.
I would never be like, no, I would never do that. Like
Yeah.
thing is wrestling. Like, there's different styles of wrestling and there's different, components of wrestling, but um I definitely I would never rule it out, but I'd be scared out of my mind. There's that, that fear factor still that comes back into play there. But I maybe someday.
No, absolutely. I mean, I don't know if me personally can do that. Putting like, landing on like tacks and push pins and barbed wire. But I think if for any female wrestler or anyone in general, if you at least get to experience it once and you have that and you're like, well, okay, we'll try it again. Or no, I'm never doing that again as long as you have that
Yeah,
experience.
don't knock it until you try it. And if I can go out there and be covered in glitter and blood, hey, at least I'll keep doing it.
Exactly. I mean, my parents absolutely hate glitter. I mean, middle school me, I still love glitter till this day, but I don't my parents they hate it. Middle
Yeah,
school me, I don't know what I was thinking in middle school. I loved it so much. I poured it in my hair and that was the hardest thing to get out of my hair.
it's and I have to say, I may think the same thing if I were to like hand some glitter to these toddlers right now and be like, "Here, go nuts." I'd be like, "Why the hell did I do that?" But
Exactly.
you know, but it's it's part of me. It's part of my personality. Like, I'm bubbly, I'm
Yeah,
sparkly, happy go lucky. Like, so that's I can't completely knock it.
definitely. I mean, a little glitter has never hurt anyone.
Right, exactly.
So, do you have a specific warm up like you do before you come out the curtain?
Not really. Nothing super specific. I make sure that I get a good stretch in. But I don't really have like a specific routine that I do before I go out. Um, yeah, physically, no, not really.
Okay. So obviously you said you've had those injuries, you've had your fair share of them. But so if you ever like, how do you think it's going to be like an age thing, a mindset thing, or like just an overall thing that you're like, okay, I'm done wrestling, it's my time, you know what I mean? What do you
Yeah,
think it's going to be for you personally?
I think it'll be when I decide to start a family. Um, and I don't think that that will be the end all either. Um, I think that it'll definitely be like the time where I decide to take a break and there's I would love to be a wrestling mom. I would love that so much. But I also know that like not everybody's bodies can handle it. And when you have children, like that's we put our bodies through a lot wrestling and we put our bodies through a lot having children. um
Uh,
and so you just never know what's going to happen in the future, but would I love to be a wrestling mom? Yeah. Um and so I can't truthfully say what I think is going to be like the end all. I
mm,
think I think it might just be when my body tells me I can't do it anymore.
I get it. So like even when that point comes, do you think you'll still be obviously involved some way, whether like you're training, you're a manager, or your
Well,
own promotion?
I really hope so. I would love to be involved, whether one thing that I've always loved that I've never really I've gotten the chance to train this in this category, but I've never really gotten the chance to do it like performing wise, is referee. I
Okay.
mean, I would being a referee is like that's a whole nother ball game. Like there's it takes talent to be a referee. I give so much credit to referees out there, especially you know in WWE. You know how you multitask the way that they do. That you have somebody in your ear telling you things, calling you things. You're also communicating with wrestlers. You're also like making sure that you have a somewhat of a presence in front of fans. Like referees have a big job. Um,
Yeah, definitely.
but that would be, I think that would be my next step if my body said, hey, taking the bumps is just not something you can do anymore. But, hey, try this.
No, definitely. And I feel for referees, they have just as big of a responsibility. Like they gotta pay attention to the fans, they gotta pay attention to the wrestlers, they gotta listen to like who's talking to them, what they're doing. So that is probably just as much as you gotta do as a wrestler.
Talent. It really takes talent. It's a whole different kind of
No, absolutely. So now, speaking overall, it could be anyone, alive or dead. If you could have one dream match, who would it be?
Ooh, that would definitely be AJ Lee. That would be my dream match for sure.
I would.
I, a very close second would be Beth Phoenix. I think Beth Phoenix would be a very close second. But AJ Lee, like being the inspiration that she was to me and being, you know, the mouthpiece that she is, the personality that she is, the talent that she has, that would be my first choice for sure.
No, absolutely. So now speaking on like the lower indie scene, it could be anyone. Who would you want to have a match with?
Ooh, who would I want to have a match with that I haven't had a match with? Um, Goodness gracious. That's a hard one. That's a really hard one. Um, I would say so. One of my favorite people in the world. I love her to death. Like she's one of my favorite people in the, wrestling scene over here is Sandra Moon. She's a peach and I love her to death. And she and I just recently had the opportunity to tag together. Um, but I would love to go one on one with her someday and just push each other. That would be an amazing one. Another one up and coming that I'd love to have a match with. She's done doing CMLL in Mexico. Also, is Johnny Robbie. She is so incredibly talented, and I would love to go one on one with her. And I somebody that I've had the opportunity to wrestle with, and I love wrestling her. And she and I have really great ring chemistry, and I hope continue to keep our feud going and keep this battle going. Is Brooke Havoc.
No, I love that. And I think like it's also like easier. Well, I'm not a wrestler, so I can't really say, but I think in most cases of I heard, I think it's like easier if you're actually like best friends with that person, or like you have that relationship, because like you're not gonna beat yourself up about it or be like, oh my god, you did this to me or you did that, like when you're best friends.
Yeah, it definitely it helps with chemistry. It helps to have chemistry with a person in the ring, and when you have an actual chemistry with them, personality wise, it helps with the physical chemistry too. Um, so that's yeah, you're spot on with that one.
So speaking as, because you do amazing, you're great. Do you ever find yourself being like a self critic? Like if you watch your matches back, be like, oh my god, why did I do that? What was I thinking?
All the time, all the time. Oh my gosh, so much. And particularly with women's matches, because I've been wrestling guys, since my debut, but it's just been within this past like year that I've really had the opportunity to wrestle like women's match.
Yeah.
And so that's something that is, I mean, it's a huge learning curve. Like it's a totally different um category to wrestle women than it is to wrestle men. It's completely different. And so that's one thing that I find myself criticizing myself on a lot, is like adapting, move sets to, and and between just, how do I put this? Finding a balance between giving the same intensity to men and women in my matches, and having the same chemistry with women that I've had in the past with guys in matches. And so I really like, when it comes to me wrestling another female, I'm especially critical of myself, and I watch my matches back, because it's easy to have a match with, a guy who's twice your size, and they can base the heck out of you, and they can throw you up in the air and make you look amazing. But you in women's matches, and there are women that can do that too, absolutely, 1000%. But it's a different level of holding your own. And it's one that, oh my god,
He was like, I had to steal the spotlight.
who is this?
His name is Furby. He's a grandpa though. He's kind of
Oh,
cranky.
but you're a sweet little old man.
He is annoying.
I have three of my. I I don't. I took this from my office, so they're not here with me. But I have three little ones. I have a little brown tabby. Her name is Daisy, and she's my little princess. She acts like a little princess. I have Luffy, who is a gray tabby, and he is a monster. He's ginormous. He's huge. And then I have a little black cat named Merlin, and he
Aw.
is definitely like the baby brother of the family, always wanting attention. the attention, always being the ham. He's just, kitties. Kitties.
I love cats, but they always want attention at the wrong times. Like I
Yeah.
just let them back in my room. When I try to sleep, I'm like, no, you guys are staying out there because you're gonna drive me crazy. And like these last 2 nights, I let them sleep in my room. I'm like, I don't get no peaceful sleep anymore because they want attention at all times of the hours.
Berlin has like the best internal clock, like better than a human. I don't understand it. He will wake me up at 7 a.m. every morning for food, regardless of whether I have to be at work or not. He does not care. At 7 a.m., you are feeding me. And I'm like, go back to bed, dude.
Right? Like I'll feed you when I get up.
Bed.
No, I get it. That orange one, he literally did that this morning. It was like 9 o'clock. I was like, 1 more hour and I'll show you attention. He was like, no, not happening.
No, you're gonna do this? No.
Yeah.
But yes, definitely. I definitely am I'm my biggest critic for sure. And I'm always trying to figure out like what should I have done different.
Yeah.
And when, like I'll have, for example, my trainer will tell me like, no, this was good, that was good. And I'll be like, but what about this? Like what is, how did
Yeah.
this, should I have done this? And I'm definitely my own worst critic. But that's good because it motivates you to never stay stagnant and always want to improve and always want to be better.
No, absolutely. I mean, I'm the same way with the podcast. And like earlier this year, I did like ring announcing and I was like a little interviewer. And I was like, oh my God, why did I sound like that? Or why did I say that? Like, what was I thinking? So now I know for other times, I'm like, okay, well, I'm not going to say that, or I'm not going to do that, or I'm going to do this better next time. So I think everyone's their own worst critic, but at the same time, it's like the little things that nobody else is going to realize.
Exactly. Yes. That's, I'm starting to learn, but this is such a hard thing to live and to cope with, is there's a difference between perfectionism and criticism. Like you can be critical of yourself, that's fine, that's a good thing. Like you always want to improve. But being a perfectionist, like that's going to make you go crazy because nothing is perfect and you're never going to be perfect. And there's, you can try as much as you want, but you're going to drive yourself crazy doing it because, there's
No, yeah.
there's no point. There's no such thing as perfect.
No, yeah. I think even if you hit that perfect moment, you're still gonna have those like self-critic moments where you're gonna be like, oh my God, I still do that.
Yeah.
I'm never gonna nobody's ever gonna be perfect. And I think that's like even if they consider themselves perfect, they still critic themselves behind closed doors.
Yeah. So when I was in elementary school, this has always stuck with me. When I was in elementary school, I did a chess club. I was a nerdy little girl, and so I did chess classes when I was in elementary school, and the instructor for those classes always said, "Practice doesn't make perfect. Practice makes better." And I was like, "Oh, why did that not register with me back when I was 9, 10, 11 years old?" I always think about that, and I'm like, haven't I remembered that before recently?
Exactly. I mean, that needs to be preached more.
Oh my gosh. People say practice makes perfect. No. People say perfect practice makes perfect. No, that's not a thing either. There's just, perfection is just this completely idealistic thing that we're all going to drive ourselves crazy striving for. Like, you don't have to be perfect.
Definitely. I mean, and being a teenager, I think that's the worst times because everyone's like, oh my God, I want to be just like this person, or I want to be like that female, and it's like, oh my God, I want to be perfect. And then, like you said, nobody's ever perfect.
Yeah, I want perfect hair. I want perfect skin. I want the perfect body. No, like you if anything, the standpoint that you should take is like, my hair is perfect because it's mine. My body is perfect because it's mine. Like, there's no other reason like that it needs to be perfect other than that you have it yours and nobody else has it.
No, 100%. I know after this, after we end it, my dad's gonna be like, see, even she tells you you're perfect just the way you are. I'm like, okay, thank you.
Yeah. There's as long as you are your own perfect. Like,
Yeah.
you know, your perfect is not the same as my perfect. My perfect is not the same. My best friend's perfect. Like, just be you.
No,
That's enough.
definitely. So funny enough, in the chat, my dad goes and says, "Sounds like my words." I knew it. I was like, I know he's gonna say it now or later. He's gonna have something to say, and then
Yeah.
and then he's chanting your name again because that's what he does best. He's definitely
Sounds like
a
my
number
dad
one
too.
supporter here. So if people wanted to show you
Aw,
support
that's great.
and
Your dad.
find you, yeah, he's okay majority of the time. It's fine. Well, don't tell him I said that. Anyways, so
Well,
if people wanted to show you support on social media, where can they find you at?
so all of my handles for everything, Instagram, Facebook are all, and Twitter are all at Karisma PWR. That's Charisma with a K. Um, and I do have YouTube. You can search for me on YouTube. And I am slowly but surely adding the videos that I get of my matches on there. Now that I've started to gain some momentum, I'm trying to record all my matches, and I love, I love to see people watching them. I love to see, if you comment on it, like, tell me what you like, tell me what you don't like, tell me if you love me, tell me if you hate me. Like, I welcome it all. Like, I want to engage with people. So yeah, Instagram and Facebook at Charisma PWR, and you can check out my matches on YouTube too.
Okay. And so, do you have merch? And if so, where can they purchase it at?
I do, but I don't have a shop yet. Um, so, if you come, if you're in the Bay Area, if you're in California and come out to a show and I'm there and come check me out, come ask me for a shirt. I got them. And hey, if people want to reach out to me on IG and say, hey, I really want one of your shirts, can you ship one to me? Hey, why the heck not? Sure, I'll spread the love. I took shirts back to some of my friends back in Mexico. Like, I would love to spread the sparkles. So
No, absolutely. That'd be like a great excuse for me personally, like, Dad. So we have to go to California just so I can get a t-shirt. Like, obviously we can vacay there too, but like mainly for the t-shirt,
yes,
feel like that's all.
yeah. There's lots to do over here. There's lots to do in we're San Francisco is.
Yeah. And so lastly, even if they're from your area, where can people find you at, like, some upcoming shows?
Ooh, so I actually have a little bit of a quiet season coming up for December. Not that, I'm not available for bookings, because I am. A little quiet, winter's quieter. But definitely ready to kick things off in the new year. Any shows with Pro Wrestling Revolution in San Jose, you can find me there, and I've got lots of other stuff in the works. Nothing, not concrete stuff yet that I can announce quite yet. But if you're in the Bay Area and you hear about a Pro Wrestling Revolution show, that is my home, and that is where you can always find me 100% of the time.
Okay, guys, so you heard her, and really quickly, or my dad's gonna kick he says, you are perfect, my love. Never let anyone tell you otherwise.
Yes. Like,
Thank you.
not ever lose that. Like, I know, it's hard to believe it about ourselves, and it's taken me until, being basically 30 to really like feel powerful and confident. So don't take that long, please.
I mean, I'll try, but but thank you so much. Thank you so much for coming on. It was definitely a pleasure. I absolutely love when I have female, like, I think in total on this podcast, I only had like 4 female wrestlers, and I had like over 100 episodes.
Oh
So
my God.
having more and more female wrestlers, it's cool and it's different. Like, I can relate to them more than some of these males because 95% of the time they're all heels anyways. So,
Right.
but
You and I should talk because I've got lots of friends over here that I'm sure would love to get their faces out there too. And I'm sure that you will love every single one of them because and you are a doll. I love you so much. Thank you so much for having me.
thank you. So I hope you all have a great night. I hope you all have a happy Thanksgiving. Thank you so much for coming on. We'll definitely talk afterwards, but I will be back Tuesday, so I'll